Hello everyone, Ethersong here, and a new balance patch for Helldivers has been released, and it made some big changes to terminate enemies, the Charger in particular. Let's take a look. So today's patch is dealing with the spawn rate of heavily armored terminate enemies, as well as the possible play against them. It also contains some fixes to UI elements and crash fixes. So let's take a look at the balancing changes here. Enemies. The amount of heavily armored targets that spawn on higher difficulties, especially for terminates, have been a big point of discussion online and eternally. The intent for groups to have to bring some sort of anti-tank capability, but not to the degree previously needed. To that end, we have reduced the spawn rate of Chargers and Bile Titans on difficulties 7 and up. In addition, we have reduced the risk of spawn spikes of Chargers and Bile Titans. Please note that we have changed the distribution of enemy types, not reduced difficulty. Expect other enemy types to appear in greater numbers instead. So overall, this feels like a great change. So the number of Chargers and Bile Titans are going to be reduced some. We have seen loads of Chargers, as like screenshots of like 8 Bile Titans or 10 Bile Titans, and numerous Chargers everywhere. So they're going to be changing some of those Charger spawns and Bile Titan spawns with other enemies. So expect to see maybe more Hunters or other enemies like that appearing. So, but one nice thing about that is it promotes a little bit more diversity in weapon types. So you don't need to always have anti-tank for everyone in the party. You could have somebody specialized on dealing with more of the weaker mob type enemies, right? So somebody focused on taking out the hunters and all the new enemy spawns, and you have one person more dedicated to the heavier targets like Charge and Bile Titans. So let's continue on with some of the changes here. We are humbled by the community's ability to find things like Charger's leg meta in our game. However, spending your heavy anti-tank weapons on legs instead of the obvious weak point seems counter to expectation. So I think what they meant by the obvious weak point is the head. But even so, I feel like the obvious weak point when you initially see the Charger is its behind, right? It seems it's like the one point that's not armored on the Charger. You're like, well, that's its weak point. But no, and I think by what they mean, the obvious point is still the head, which maybe is not so obvious, but in any case, the head is going to get some changes here, so let's take a look. We are not changing anything regarding the Charger's legs. We are, however, lowering the health of the Charger's head. It should now be at a point where a well-placed shot from a recoilless rifle or EAT-17 instantly kills a Charger, together with the unfortunately undocumented change of last patch that increased the armor penetration ability of less well-placed shots for EAT-17s and recoilless rifle shots. Chargers should now be easier to handle by well-equipped groups. So I actually tried this out today some. I was playing around with the recoilless rifle and anti-tank rocket, and Chargers were a lot easier to take down. Let me say, if you aim at their head, get a good shot in their head with one of the rockets, they die instantly and they just blow up, and it actually feels real good. So being able to take them out quicker now, and I know having that option, being able to maybe you bring in those expendable anti-tank rockets, right? Have somebody bring those in for Chargers. You can actually have a strategy around that. A recoilless rifle, being able to take out Chargers in one hit feels really good. So I'm very happy with this change. And since the health in the head has been reduced, this actually affects things other than the instant kill things. For example, the arc thrower can actually kill the Charger in a less number of shots as well. So it's easier for the arc thrower also to kill the Charger if you keep aiming at its head. I would expect other weapons as well. Perhaps a flamethrower can kill the Charger faster now if you aim at its head instead of its legs. And I don't know about the railgun. Perhaps the railgun might be able to kill the Charger faster by aiming at its head now. Or perhaps the railgun would still be better with the legs, but I don't know. But those are some changes, and it affects kind of all weapons. So the head is a lot bigger of a weak point now than before, which promotes a little bit more diversity in trying to take down a Charge. You can actually aim for the head with some, critical shots here with your rockets and be able to take it down quite quickly. So overall, I feel like this is a great change, and it feels a lot better to take down the Chargers in that manner than before, instead of constantly shooting them or just, like stripping their leg armor to shoot it with other shots, which is kind of funny, which they pointed out in their update notes here. Continuing along, let's look at some of the gameplay changes here. The electronic countermeasures operation modifier, which had a chance of giving you a random stratagem instead of the one you input, has been removed in order to be reworked and will be reintroduced in a future iteration. We have found that this modifier was not communicated clearly enough and overall caused more frustration than excitement with the way it was currently implemented. This change was made in 1.0001, but was unintentionally omitted from the patch notes. So I guess there's some of those, modifiers that just don't feel good to play with. Like this one in particular, you having your thing scrambled. I guess there's some other ones as well, right? Having your, was it cooldowns doubled? It's like, well, you want to use stratagems, but you can't because they're so long. I don't know, maybe if they can look into some more interesting way to have these modifiers in the game, it could be interesting, or have, more positive modifiers kind of mixed in with the negatives. In any case, let's look at some of the other fixes. Fixed mixing text on several HUD UI elements. Fixed several subtitle, VO mismatches in the news videos. Fixed various crashes that occurred mid-gameplay and when deploying to missions. And then there's some known issues here. These are issues that were either introduced by this patch or are being worked on, or are from a previous version and have not yet been fixed. Game crashes when attempting to use a stim while inside an exosuit. Pink artifacts may appear in the sky when setting off large explosions. Automaton dropships seemingly disappear and slides in after being shot down. Shots from arc-based weapons may not count towards the kills in post-mission stats. Players cannot unfriend other players befriended via friend code. Cross-platform friends invite might not show up in the friend request tab. Players may be unable to select loadout or return to ship from joining a multiplayer game session via PS5 activity card. The exosuit can destroy itself with rockets when it's turning. So I guess the rockets where they're probably focused on is, it takes a while for the rockets to turn, I would guess, with the robot. I would think, at least. And they're probably, the reticle is somewhere else, and the robot's facing a different direction, so it just shoots into the robot and blows itself up. It's kind of a funny bug, but they're looking at that. And then finally, the text chat box display is obstructed by cinematic letterboxing during extraction. I wonder if these really are all the known bugs, because there's lots of other issues that people have been pretty vocal about or talked about, and there's some other things like that PS5 health bug for Titans and things like that, but I would expect that they are aware of more than just these. But overall, that is all the changes for just I think it's like a hot patch, or just like a small patch that came into the game. So for the small update, it actually brings some pretty big changes, especially to the Chargers and how battles with Terminids will go. And overall, from what I played today, it felt a lot better. I think it was a very good change. Being able to take out Chargers faster is great. Having less Charger and Battle Titan spawns is also nice. So it promotes a little bit more weapon diversity, and also promotes bringing things like those recoilless rifle and expendable anti-tank rockets, right? So let me know what you think about these changes in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. Later.